Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's Kings Local Schools Board of Education public meeting to order. Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff,
Here.
Ms. Cowan, Mr. Skrull,
Here.
Mr. Belfrom.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the reports and presentations. I will turn it over to Mr. Sears.
Yes, thank you, President Belfram. Board and community, as you know, each week each board meeting, we spend a little bit of time providing information on the latest update from our master facility planning process and corresponding bond issue that's on the March 19th ballot for voter consideration. So as we go through this, we'll talk about a few things tonight, and then the board asked us last week to prepare some information that we'll share as well. But as we get started, I do want to remind our community that we have a community information night on February 27th. That's next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock in this room. For any community member that wants to come and hear direct specific information around the bond issue, Mr. Morrow, myself, and others on our administrative team will be here, as well as some of our experts from our architectural team and our finance team as well. So we'll be able to provide information, then answer any questions that the community members have. So it's 7 o'clock next Tuesday in this room here at the KEC. Last week at the work session, we presented some information talking about the new high school site. We've received a few questions on location. And we went in detail, so I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit this evening. But last summer, the district purchased property from Kings Island, about approximately 30 acres, for $225,000. That enables us to, and that's designated on this site map. It enables us some options for consideration. So if the voters of the community would approve a new high school plan, that site presents options for us to analyze the best possible location for a new high school based on logistics, traffic flow, infrastructure, and specifically cost. And so we will do that analysis if it's approved March 19th. Soon after, within the first 60 days, we will do some significant studies and analysis to determine where on that site the best spot and location for the high school will go, and a lot of be driven based on some of those things I mentioned, infrastructure, but predominantly cost. So we went into a little more detail last week, but I do want to, that is still undetermined, and that's intentional, because any of the studies and any of the work that we would do now to determine that would be an expense to the district. We do not feel like that's fiscally responsible on our end to make decisions or have studies done without the voters basically saying that this is a plan that they support. So more to come on that, and we'll continue to analyze that as we move forward.
We were tasked with evaluating, is there alternative funding methods for the facilities plan? The state of Ohio does provide funding for school districts for facilities. So we were in discussion with them, and we don't qualify for money right now. It's not our time on their list, but the board did authorize us to begin discussions with them to enter into an expedited program where we could spend money now and then get credit to use later on facilities, or you could even get the money back and pay off debt. And we wanted to update the board and community that the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission did acknowledge that we were eligible for the expedited program. And we've begun the work of compiling the information that they need to kind of kickstart the process with them. So that work's ongoing, and we'll keep the board updated as we move forward. You can go ahead. So $142 million bond issue that's on the March 19th ballot. One of the common questions or just common information is, what is a bond issue? A bond issue is very similar to a homeowner's mortgage. If the community does approve the bond issue on March 19th, the district will actually get $142 million. The same way a homeowner would get the money to pay for a new house. And then the community would make property tax payments every year, which would then flow to us, and then we would use to make our mortgage payments. So just wanted to clarify that and repeat that it's just like a mortgage. This is a pretty simple mechanism. On the left-hand side, under ballot language, this is exactly what the ballot will say on March 19th. 5.971 mils, $209 annually per every 100,000 of true home value. That's by law. The ballot can only read one way. The county auditor has one way to certify what that millage is. But the district and board was proactive and worked with financial experts to say, is there a way we can impact taxpayers less than whatever the ballot says? So we were able to come up with, or they as the financing team were able to come up with a way to take advantage of the fact that we're paying down our old projects and phase in our new payments. So the impact to the community isn't near as great as what the ballot language actually reads. So the estimated actual impact is 3.5 mils rather than 5.971. And that 3.5 equates to $351 per year or $29 per month for the average home in Kings. This is just another way to look at kind of that last visual. So the green at the bottom, those are projects that we're paying on right now. So we're paying on KME, we're paying on SLE, and various other renovations and additions across the district. And if the ballot issue is successful March 19th, the blue lines on the screen will come into play, and you can see the green gets lower kind of as time goes by until they're eventually gone. And the blue actually gets bigger year by year as the payments are phased in. So our municipal advisors compiled this graph for us, and I think it gives a really nice visual to paying off old projects and phasing in new payments.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep,
Can we go back a slide?
sure.
Okay, some people out in the community have asked some questions about this. If we wanted to point them in the direction of somebody who can verify that this is true information,
Mhm.
who would you recommend that I've seen Matt Nolan's name, our county auditor, being the best person, but I just wanted to make sure that's the best person to tell people to, and I don't want to bombard him, but.
He would be a great person.
Okay.
He's seen this work for other districts within Warren County, and we actually sat down, our municipal advisor and myself, we sat down with Mr. Nolan before we presented this to the Board of Education, just to talk through the process with him and to make sure that there was no holes or something we were missing. So he does have experience and he has seen our exact plan. So yeah, he would be great. We can point them to Sycamore. They've actually done this, and it's worked out better than what they presented back before their bonds were issued, because they're, I believe, 4 years into their project. So they're another great example. We can even point them to our municipal advisor or our attorney, whose job is to protect the district and protect the community and provide us with the most factual, real information possible.
Okay.
So many
So-
options. I can send you contact information for all of them.
That would
and
be great. And
post it.
then if anybody asks specifically in the near future, I'll point them in your direction.
Perfect.
Okay, second question. Someone asked me this estimated actual impact.
Hmm?
Could that fluctuate? like from what we understand, it's gonna be 3.5.
Yes.
What does the word estimated mean?
Estimated means we had to use conservative estimates, so we didn't miss our mark at 3.5. The current market for low interest rates and rising home values in Kings could actually make it less than that. But we don't know. The biggest driver is the interest rate and how much interest we're going to be paying on $142 million. So we had to estimate conservatively, and that was also working with the county auditor to come up with a good estimate for home value increases, and then also working with our advisors on what's a conservative interest rate. Because we don't want to say 3.5 and then it come in higher than that. So we're hopeful that it's actually lower than 3.5, but that's a conservative number that pulled in a lot of people and a lot of data before we put out to everybody.
Thank you.
I have a question that's more future than current right now. When you go forward to that graph, you can look at 2034 where it's lower. Is that a situation that, depending on where it is, that we would again talk to our financial advisors and maybe lower that rate? as
Absolutely.
we've done in the past?
Absolutely. So what Ms. Phillips is referring to is basically refinancing outstanding debt. So, and it's not just Kings, but it's been done at Kings. Common for districts and municipalities across the state in a low interest rate environment, they're refinancing essentially to lower that interest and to lower the impact on the community. In roughly 7 years, we can start to look at that. That's kind of the timeline of when we're allowed, because you can't just refinance whenever you want on this type of debt. So when we get out that 7 to 10 year range, absolutely. If it's a better rate environment and we can lower the impact, we'll absolutely try to do that.
Thank you.
So I think the last bond reissue we did, we saved, what was about 1.4 million, Mrs. Phillips, if I remember. Is that right?
Yeah, we lowered
It was,
that
it
number.
was with Mr. Phillips, but Mr. Furnace, I think it was about 1.4 million on the last bond reissue, we saved in interest. So
What year was that? Do you remember?
2020, it was a very low interest rate environment then. So districts across the state were refinancing at that time. So yes, that's one way where absolutely we can look at that. And also I'll point out that when we're looking out 10 years, super conservative for home and for value growth and also new construction, super conservative. So if we continue the trajectory of having high home values, high growth, that number it's guaranteed to be lower if we do continue that trend.
well, let me just say, past savings is not indicative of future savings, since I brought that up.
Absolutely. This is one of the questions from the board last week, and also something we've gotten into with multiple people, just trying to make sure they had everything kind of straight in their mind. There's really 3 main mechanisms for property taxes to fund schools. I refer to them as buckets of money because they can all be used on different things and not all of them on the same thing. So an operating levy, this is what we passed in November of 2022. That's used to fund our day-to-day. We pay salaries, we pay benefits, we pay our electric bill, we pay service contracts. That money is used just to do school day to day. A bond issue, which is what we're talking about now, it can only be used on big ticket items, I'll call it. We're talking buildings, changing infrastructure, large technology purchases. These are long-term items. We can't use any of the 142 million or any of this money at all on day-to-day expenses. And we track that and report that to the state. And then there's also a third bucket. It's permanent improvement. So every year Kings receives roughly $1.5 million just to maintain our buildings and our parking lots and update HVACs, roofs, $1 million plus, HVACs, $500,000 plus. So these are these big ticket items and keeping our facilities in working order. And that also can't be used on our day-to-day expenses. So that's why you really think of it as three separate buckets.
And which bucket did the Kings Island land purchase come from?
That came from the permanent improvement bucket. So it had no impact on operations. That was part of our facilities.
So last week, the board asked us to put together information that, we have the bond issue on for the new high school, in addition to Columbia and some other district improvements and reorganization. So what would be the impact if the bond is not successful? So what does that look like? And so we've outlined basically 5 categories that depict some consequences or some outcomes if the bond is not successful. So the first one is inefficient building operations. So currently we're running extremely inefficient, and as we continue to experience additional growth, that's going to increase. So an example is we have significant reduction of academic time at our high school because we've had to add lunches to the schedule each day at our high school. This is due to, and outlined in Mr. Cropper's report, that not only did he have questions and concerns about our class sizes and the number of classrooms we have, but one of his main issues was our core spaces, our cafeterias, gyms, auditoriums, media center spaces. Those were undersized for that purpose. So at our high school alone, we've had to add lunches, which forces us to decrease academic time. So currently we're operating under 41-minute classes at Kings High School. This is below benchmark across the state of Ohio. If you ask any one of our teachers, it doesn't matter the subject they teach, but if you ask any one of our teachers, they will tell you 41 minutes is not enough to accomplish the information that they need to get through with our students, especially in areas of high stakes, right? High stakes. So when we look at AP courses, for example, AP is a national testing situation where our kids across the state or across the country are taking the same assessment. So our students are compared to those students. So with 41-minute classes, we are limited in that ability to meet the needs and continue to address the content within those courses, as well as even remediate for students that need extra assistance. A comparison, Sycamore, for example, very comparable district to us, same size, similar in scope. Sycamore has 45-minute classes. A difference of 4 minutes creates 5,040 additional instructional minutes per year per student during their day. That's 12 hours per class period. So just in one individual class with 4 additional minutes, you can add 12 hours of instruction per class. Significant challenge that we have because our cafeteria is not big enough to support the number of kids that we have going through Kings High School. Our Kings High School cafeteria is designed for 287 students at one time. That is max capacity. That's also the number of students that can actually go through a serving line at that time. So 287, we're currently with 4 lunches operating 343 students on average per lunch. If we were going to meet just the minimum standard of that, we would have to have approximately 6 lunches at Kings High School, it's an impossible. You cannot schedule using that. So that's an example of inefficient building operations. And because we have to have more lunches, we have increased personnel costs for cafeteria staff to actually run those facilities. As we continue to experience growth, we're going to analyze increased class sizes. We're going to have to look at reducing course offerings, moving towards what are the state minimum graduation and academic requirements, that we will be making decisions based on space, not necessarily the best academic program for kids as we continue to grow. I will point out that in Mr. Cropper's report, right now, Kings High School is 134% capacity. that if you just take the students that are living in Kings right now, in our schools right now, and you move our current seventh graders, assuming no additional growth, if you remove the seventh graders to seniors, that's 145% capacity without any additional neighborhoods, multifamily homes, et cetera, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Those are challenges. I'm going to flip it to Mrs. Martin real quick. Here's a little bit more information on some of the challenges that we're having just with space.
So I actually had to talk to Gordon before I knew that this was happening. We have the 41 minutes has created an issue for us at the high school with special ed. Couple months ago, the administration from the high school and some of their intervention specialists reached out to Lorraine and I, and we've met with them a couple of times. We're not getting our specially designed minutes, which are federal law, in because we're just down a lot of minutes because of the 41 minutes, which has led us to a discussion about we need to add guided interventions, space, class periods. Well, that then means what isn't going to be held during that time, like what classes are we not going to do at the high school because we need to add guided interventions. My teaching and learning side, that feels hard to do and talk about, but we're going to have to look at some of our electives, our APs, some of our classes, because we have to find time for these guided interventions because we have to get those minutes in. So that's a very real thing we're going through right now with the high school. So I just wanted to share that with you.
And so I'll conclude this portion, but we're a high functioning academic organization that is priding ourselves in creating bright futures for our students, exposing them to not only rigorous coursework, but opportunities. All of those things continue to be a challenge with the lack of available space. And so decisions will be analyzed on those on the best move forward. But as Dana points out and others point out, our priority is going to have to be to meet state minimum requirements. So we'll continue to analyze that. The last thing we'll say is safe moving of students. Currently, especially at our high school, our hallways are crowded. Our stairwells are crowded. With available space, with additional, with the solution that has been presented to our community, it creates a safer movement of students. It gives us an opportunity to move more freely, exit our buildings quicker, et cetera. So there's a little bit of a safety component as we consider moving forward. We're not unsafe in Kings. We work with our fire department and we work with all of those, our safety personnel very well. But certainly that's an area of improvement if we were able to spread out a little bit more.
So this goes back to the graphics that we showed a few minutes ago, operating dollars, bond issue dollars, permanent improvement dollars. So if you don't have the bond dollars, then you have to spend money elsewhere if you're going to address some of the issues. And we have no budget allocation available to add trailers or classrooms in the district. That is something that we could do, add trailers or classrooms, but we don't have any money to do it. We have very limited operational dollars. We run very, very tight here at Kings. A good example of that is our cash balance in relation to our spending. Of 611 districts, 569 have more cash compared to what they spend than Kings. So we run very, very tight. There's no extra to buy trailers or add classrooms. And even if we did buy trailers or add classrooms, it's not a long-term solution. It's a Band-Aid. It doesn't address our core spaces like our cafeterias and our gyms and our auditoriums. It doesn't change any of the things we've had to do, like converting a lobby at the junior high into a classroom. It would just be Band-Aiding some rooms around the district. A continued investment in converting non-instructional spaces to substandard instructional spaces. This is the district spending permanent improvement dollars just to build walls and to convert areas into different uses. And all the permanent improvement funds we already have and that we will receive, it's already budgeted. We need roofs, we need air conditioners, we need parking lot. These are big ticket items that when we have to spend our permanent improvement money on conversions, it's taken away from something else. All that money's already spent.
The next slide is, in the way we're currently structured and set up is we lack the opportunity to generate essential income. And with updated facilities that are in the proposed plan, there's opportunity for a significant amount of rental income from our gyms, fields, auditorium, et cetera. Currently, we are not on the list of schools in school districts that are hosting volleyball or basketball tournaments throughout the region. Our teams are playing in updated facilities that are they're generating income. So those, for example, Princeton, where our boys are playing, they'll make about $3,000 in total from hosting one basketball event. So there's opportunity that when you have updated facilities, you have a desirable location to play and go into, you can generate revenue from that. The other piece of this is, as we've looked at a district reorganization, we're actively pursuing and having active discussions with local educational facilities for opportunities to lease or rent available space within our school district. Certainly with this plan, we're going to analyze our continued growth over the next few years, but at the conclusion of this plan, we will have the opportunity to generate some revenue based on space, and we're having active discussions with that. Currently, that is not an option. So as much as we're focused on asking our community to support some of this, behind the scenes, we are seeking every opportunity to generate revenue so that we don't have to ask our community continually for operational dollars. That's very important to us, but with our current structure and setup, we're limited in what we can do, because frankly, there are better facilities out there that other groups and organizations are using. And then the last thing I would say is, we would be, having very challenging discussions on moving from all-day kindergarten to half-day kindergarten. Again, I mentioned this earlier in this presentation that we would be making decisions for what's in the best interest of available space in our district, rather than what's in the best interest of programming and instruction for our students. So that's a real discussion that we would have that would alleviate some pressure within our elementary schools, if we needed to. The last kind of in conclusion, and I think this puts into perspective why we're in the discussion we're in and why we're in the situation we're in. And I'll just outline this because this is just in the last week, and this is maybe people have seen this on social media. You've seen various things. It hits us at the same time, and we find out, and we're aware of some potential things, but when it becomes finalized, we find out basically the same time as our community. So just last week, there were confirmed 250 new home sites just last week within our school district. 180 homes off Western Row, 42 homes off of Mason Moore Millgrove, 28 homes near the TPC area, all within our school district. 250 homes just last week we confirmed that are happening within our district. That's going to bring a significant number of additional students to already over capacity buildings. On top of the 639 multifamily units that have been approved within our district, 416 at the River Creek Lofts and 223 in the apartment complex behind what is formerly the beach property. So we've known about some of these things. There were new pieces last week. There was all three of those were confirmed last week. We were also in a discussion last week, same thing, where there is a future possibility. We don't have the specifics of this yet, but there are homes going in a large farm property off of Zor Road. Half of that property sits in Little Miami School District. The other half of that property sits in King School District. So we are led to believe that's going to be a fairly large new development. And we'll have a mixture of patio homes and family homes. We are led to believe at this point that the patio homes will be in the Little Miami side of the district, and the family homes will be in the Kings district. So that is the latest. As a community and board, you need to know we spend considerable time talking to the multiple municipalities that all touch our school district. We're constantly seeking information. We're constantly having discussions, trying to get an understanding of what this means. And all of this is why we're in the position that we're in right now. we have presented an option for our community to consider that is a comprehensive option. It's not a Band-Aid. It's a lot to it, but it is a comprehensive solution that is built to account for these things. We can forecast the future, but by lowering the capacity of our elementary schools, by adding on at Columbia, and by putting 6 through 8 at our high school campus that can house that number of students and then some, and a new high school option, that plan is a comprehensive plan that addresses these. This will not impact any of those pieces. It was built for that purpose. If without that, all of those continued things are going to continue to really stress the system and impact the outcomes that we have. So why we're in this now is this is why. We see this happening. We're going to continue to feel this. I'll repeat that, we are a high functioning academic organization that's producing amazing young adults. And they leave our district in a very highly competitive environment that are prepared for life beyond the walls of our district. We'd love to see that continue. So we'll take any questions from our board about anything that you heard from
I have
one
a
of these.
question on the last bullet point there, the homes off of Zoar Road. Do we have any idea like acreage or is it? are we
Yeah, I
looking
think-
at 20 homes, 200 homes?
Zor's probably at least 100 in the Kings
Okay.
side of where it is,
100 acres.
100 home sites.
Oh, 100 homes.
That isn't to be fair to Mr. Lucky, that hasn't been analyzed, but that
Mhm.
it'll be around, like, we're anticipating that would be a ballpark number.
Okay.
So you don't see it until it gets through like a zoning meeting.
Right.
That's where the 3 that we just got last week kind of
Mhm.
generated themselves with drawings and lot layouts.
Not really. Well, follow-up question, just from my own curiosity, perhaps you can get back to me on. I'm kind of curious as to how much instructional time we've lost in the last several years. Because I feel like, gosh, when my son was here, bells were, look at Carrie, I thought bells were more than 45 minutes. So I'm just kind of curious, with our constraints, I don't know how germane it is, but how much time have we actually lost in instructional time per student? Because when you appropriate it out as you did for the course of the 180 something days a year, that's a significant amount of time. So then you're starting to talk about how much time has each student lost over the duration of their time at Kings under this current circumstance, like the last 3 to 4 years. It's significant. I don't know how relevant it is. I'm just curious, crunching numbers. But I'm also, I just want to kind of reiterate something that you said, Mr. Sears, if I could, because I know we get this question a lot from all the municipalities. People seem to think that we have a lot of say on these developments with the different municipalities. And then they ask us, you heard the chuckles, why our administrative team isn't doing something or what have you. But again, I just want to reiterate that they do that. Mr. Sears, Mr. Morrow, Mr. Lucky, Mr. Spinner, Mrs. Martin, the board, the 10 meetings. We do give input. We give formal communications to the municipalities to let them know, what 250 homes is going to mean to the circumstance that Mr. Sears is talking about. So I know we get that question a lot. But we do actively work to represent the district and, what we're currently facing as enrollment grows and as the community it's an attractive place to live. You all know that. And people want to move here as they hear about all the great things we're doing. So yeah, it's just want to make that clear. I get that question several times a week. People are under the impression that we don't have representatives at these meetings, and we do. So, what it's worth. We have any more questions for Mr. Sears, Mr. Morrow, concerning the?
I don't know if it's a question, but honestly, everyone in our community should hear this message right here. This is scary to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I moved here 9 years ago and I was told we were landlocked. And clearly we are not. And that happened in a week. I kept calling Mr. Sears and Mr. Lucky last week going, did you hear this? Is this true? Yep, it's true. Did you hear this? Is this true? In 1 week, 250 more homes. That's frightening. And I know it's a lot of money that we're asking from people, but this is a major problem to solve. It's a lot. I mean, I just want to thank all the people that put input into the plan, who helped get 2,500 community members to participate in the plan. It is a very large problem to solve. And I do thank you, because the plan could solve for many, many generations.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we do this and then in 6 more years, we need another bond. That's not what's going to happen. This could last a very long time.
Yeah.
So, if anybody's listening to this meeting, this is the information we are scared about right here.
Absolutely. Right. Well said, Mrs. Croft. I mean, I heard the same thing when we moved here. And then Mr. Lucky gave me an education on that. I mean, we are landlocked, but like I know for myself, I didn't realize where the district ends in some of these places. I mean, the northern part, we're heading up towards Turtle Creek. And then Mr. Lucky, as I said, gave me an education before about how much of it is undeveloped, you know, and if someone who owns lots of acreage up and decides to retire and move to Boca, developers are going to move in, and that's where we find ourselves in a lot of these situations, or folks are selling the property. And yeah, I mean, I remember him telling me that several years ago, like there's just a lot of opportunity to build more homes, even though we have fixed lines. So yeah, it's definitely, to your point, Mr. Croft, this is the real concern here. Is just we're pushing the limits of what's just comfortable for people. I mean, it's a lot. We have anything else for concerning the master facilities planning for Mr. Sears? Right, Sears, I'll give it to you.
Okay, so speaking of revenue generation, I'm gonna welcome Mr. Walt Daniels here from Land and CSA, and I'll let Mr. Lucky do a quick introduction. As you know, later in this board agenda is an approval for a land sale. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but we wanted to, before that happened, we wanted the board to have an opportunity to hear from Mr. Daniels. Mr. Lucky?
Thank you, Mr. Sears. So Mr. Daniels and I, at this point, go way back. As soon as I came to the district, just to say, the communications that we have with our municipalities as well as our communities. Walt represents, I'd say, the biggest neighborhood in the state. I don't know if that's accurate-ish. It sure feels that way with the Land and CSA. And I have to mention a thank you to Jasmine Lindholm, who is also through Town Properties, and she helps Walt manage with the team of members, really the biggest neighborhood in our community by a lot. And Walt came to us years ago with a kind of a proposal, and we're finally getting to the head of that. And I didn't do it any justice last week. So Walt and I asked Walt to come in to give some highlights of the benefits of what this will do for the Land and Lake community.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm here to answer any and all questions you might have, what we're looking to do with that property. So as you're all aware, we have a lake. That property happens to hold the one piece of the creek that we have no control over. Our government's governing papers don't allow us to spend money on property that we don't own. So for us to be able to do anything with that portion of Simpson Creek, we have to own it. And what we're looking to do with that basically is we want to go into hydraulic dredging of the lake by pumping everything over onto that area where it's a grassy area. pull everything off the bottom. We want to do this like in about every other year. There's about 3 different sections of the lake that we would do. But so it's like pull it all over there, let it sit for about a year while it dewaters, and then we haul it all away, and then we just repeat that cycle every 2 years, thereabouts. It's pretty simple, sounds pretty simple. We're concerned about how it's going to look because these are huge bags that are like twice the size of this room. Once we get this property, we would plant, I think they're called green giant arborvitaes all along Irwin Simpson and Columbia in advance so that we get a nice little green barrier. Get that all squared away. And it's quite simple. We're trying to keep it simple anyway. There's some other things we're going to want to do. We're going to want to go in and armor the banks. So first off, we want to go in there and take out, like, there's a few tires that are in there now and a few other things. We want to get those out of that part of the creek, the dead stumps and things like that. Then we would armor it to lessen the amount of erosion. And then that's it. And Matt's correct. I think at one time I heard we were the largest HOA east of the Mississippi. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'll tell you what, we've got 2,444 families.
Yeah.
So we listen and things are coming along, and I applaud everything that you guys are doing. That's good schools bring good people. That's me personally. So any questions? I'm certainly willing to.
Go ahead.
No.
So thanks for coming, Mr. Daniels. Appreciate you. You know what? I've heard of you and I've never actually met you or seen you before. So it's nice to meet you, sir. Just out of curiosity, we talked about this a little bit last week, but like these bags, what do they look like? I mean, we talking like a bag that can hold metric tons of silt, or I mean, are they going to be huge? And I guess I'm kind of concerned, Mr. Daniels. Let me clarify my question is, what's the haulaway going to be like and look like, particularly if that's, during the school year? Is it something that's you're going to have to shut down Simpson, the road, and we have to concern ourselves with buses or?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
Should not. Water's Edge, I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes.
Water. So they just did this a year ago. They had these huge bags, and so we went and checked all that out, and it's like, hey, I don't like the looks of this, and so we're gonna put green barriers around it while it dewaters.
Okay.
No, it should be no impact whatsoever to the school district.
Sounds good.
We are working very closely with Warren County. Certainly the Warren County Water and Sewer Department, as well as Deerfield Township. In fact, Jasmine and I are meeting with Deerfield Township this coming Thursday. We meet with them quite frequently. So.
Thank you.
I'll just say I haven't heard one concern about this, and we want to be good neighbors to you, and we thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much. And once again, thank you for all that you're doing for the kids. It's appreciated. It really is appreciated. So,
Thank you, sir.
all right, very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
All right. Please continue, Mr. Sears.
Next, we have the highlight of the evening, is our raise presentation for this evening. So is it just you, Katie? Okay, well, Katie Gibson, yes, thank you for being here. We can't wait.
All right, well, I'm gonna adjust this. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm Katie, as Mr. Sears just said. Normally I'm here with Gabby. She unfortunately woke up sick this morning, so she was unable to make it, but she will be back next month. So I'm glad to be here and just share a little bit more about what the castle has been up to the past month. To start up, we have some winter athletics. So the swim team recently competed in districts on Saturday, and they are sending 12 swimmers to state, including me, which is why my hair is red. So Yeah, ignore the red hair. It's just for state. And then the bowling team competed in the ECC championship on our day off Friday and actually missed school today to compete in the sectional championship. The girls basketball team had their last game of the season last Wednesday against Fairmont. They had a huge win of 64-37, which really just boosted them into the offseason. And they're playing their first offseason game tonight. And the men's basketball team hosted senior night versus Milford, and it was another big win of 88-60. Continuing with our winter sports, the track team had a great meet at the Defiance Invitational with several first place events. The wrestling team competed in the ECC championship on Saturday, and the gymnastics team also competed at the city championships this past Saturday. So a very big weekend of sports at the high school. And then our winter athletes of the week were senior dancer Anya Metzger and junior basketball player Tommy Clark. And it was just a great opportunity to highlight some of the athletes at the school for their achievements in their prospective sports. And the high school hosted their second signing day of the year, and we had 10 seniors commit to play at the higher level. So Brendan Newhouse signed for bowling, Ryan Gilbranson and Braden Laker for baseball, Sam Thomas for track and field, Will Ballard and Faith Radowski for swimming, Madeline Harkey, Melissa Mora, and Ella Sills for soccer, and finally Cassie Ingram for basketball. And we had several Knights teams get crowned, which was a very big deal. So the men's swim team is ECC champs for the third time in the past 4 years. The dance team is state champs for the first time ever. And the cheer team placed 8th in the nation at nationals.
Yeah.
We're very proud of all of our sports. Next is academics. So the Women in STEM Club hosted their annual STEM fair and had lots of games, experiments, and so much more just to show younger Knights a little bit about what STEM is and something to look forward to in their future years. National Honor Society volunteered at Joshua's Place on February 3rd, packing meals for those in our community and other communities who might need it. The National Art Honor Society drew pages for a coloring book that they gave to their art pen pals, which I've talked about at a previous meeting. And they also volunteered at Crayons to Computers, and doing so, they were able to get art supplies donated back to their class. A few other activities at the school, the book club was able to meet with international best-selling author John Mars at their past meeting to discuss the book they had been reading the past month, which I just think is a very cool experience to be meeting with a famous author. The art club made Healing Hearts to send to Cedar Village Assisted Living just to brighten up people's days. The race team highlighted the S in Race for Service at their last meeting, just going around the castle, seeing what service teachers needed done. So they helped teachers clean their rooms, cleaned off boards, and then just picked up odds and ends that were throughout the halls. And then combining band and choir, the OMEA Ohio Professional Development Conference was hosted in Columbus this year, and both students and teachers were able to attend just to share their passion for music with the rest of Ohio. Returning back to the castle, this year was the Opportunity Fair. It was hosted during school and gave students the opportunity to learn about different options for their future. There were several different businesses from all throughout Cincinnati, and even some colleges were in attendance. And returning for the second time this year is Kings Against Cancer, which is a 7-week-long fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They are representing Kings and competing against 16 other schools to raise as much money as possible to fight blood cancers. Last week, they hosted a kids' night out at Altitude, and they have a dine and donate at Wings and Rings this upcoming Thursday. And just a little fun fact, I'm actually heading up this fundraiser for the second year in a row. And this is really close to my heart because both of my mom's my mom's sisters, my aunts, have had blood cancer. So it's just a very eye-opening experience, and it's a great thing for the Kings community to be a part of.
Question on that. Do you need a flyer or will all sales, no matter what, go to?
You have to mention it, but you don't necessarily need a flyer.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. And new this year that we've brought up a few times is Castle Spotlights. So our student spotlight for the month is sophomore Maya Schweikert. Maya Schweikert is on the swim team and has been involved with swimming for many years. I'm guessing most of you have heard her name. She was named ECC Swimmer of the Year for the second year in a row. She won both of her individual events at districts this past weekend, is seated first in the state in the 100 backstroke, so hopefully she'll be bringing home a banner, and she already holds numerous records in the ECC. And then our teacher spotlight this month is Miss Cook. She is an art teacher and leads the National Art Honor Society at Kings. She brought National Art Honor Society to Kings 3 years ago and has grown the program since its inception. She is well known throughout the community and the high school for how thoughtful she is, and is also the sponsor of our school's Kindness Club. We appreciate all she does for us so much and are glad to have teachers like this who we can rely on. And that is all for this month. Hopefully Gabby will be back with us next month. Thank you so much for having me.
Katie, stay there. So one, the whole works. And two, we wanted to take a moment, these wonderful people on the board, they don't miss anything. And they wanted to give you something special for qualifying for state and for doing Raise. This is not easy for you and Gabby to come here every month, every quarter and stand up here and talk to all of these relatively older people and give these presentations. I know that's challenging. I mean, to hear all that you're doing and heading up the fundraiser, we just wanted to let you know that we really appreciate you and Gabby, and we wanted to wish you well at state. And so we got a gift for you to take with you and keep doing all the great things that you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
I think
So board, before you go, we plan on having quite the celebration in March for many of our accomplished teams and from this winter, and expecting amazing things coming up at the state swim meet as well. So March is going to be a fun meeting. So.
And with that, oh, did anyone have any questions for Katie? No. With
Thank
that, yes, thank you, Katie. We'll move on to public participation. The Kings Board of Education recognizes the value to school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. The board offers public participation to members of the public and applies the procedures to all speakers and does not discriminate based on the identity of the speaker, content of the speech, or viewpoint of the speaker. The board is also committed to conducting its public business meetings in a productive and efficient manner. The board provides a period for public participation at every regular meeting of the board and publishes rules to govern such participation in board meetings. The board president is the presiding officer and will administer the rules of the board. The portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited is limited to 30 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. With that, we have our first speaker is Ashley Aliaga. Did I say that correctly? All right, perfect.
Hi, I'm Ashley Aliaga. My husband and I have 2 girls who are King students. I want to take this time to encourage everyone to vote. In 2019, the bond failed by only 167 votes, so a very narrow margin. Our local elections have always been decided by only a few votes. Your votes go further and mean more during these local elections than they do for the national elections. And the national elections, unfortunately, is when most people turn out to vote. So the local elections are significantly more impacted by your individual votes. The result of this election will be seen and felt by almost everyone in this school district daily. The only thing that will count in this election is the count of the ballots. Putting a sign in your yard or posting something on Facebook or talking about the upcoming elections with friends over a drink isn't enough. You have to vote. From tomorrow until March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, easy to remember, you can go to the Warren County Board of Elections in Lebanon for early voting. Every time I've done this, I was in and out of the building in 3 minutes, so it's very quick and easy. You can also do an absentee ballot. Just Google Warren County absentee ballot and you'll find the information very easily. The primary is March 19th. Please save this date in your calendar and go to the Warren County Board of Elections website to ensure you know where your polling place is. My family moved to Kings because it's a great school district. 9 years ago is when we moved here. Please help us to keep it that way. That's it.
Our next speaker is Heather Schultz.
Good evening, it's me again. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. For those present and watching who maybe don't know me, my name is Heather Schultz, parent of a class of 21 alum and a class of 26 student, and both have been quite involved academically, musically, athletically, which means my husband and I have been as well. My youngest has been educated in every building except SLE. So tonight I wanted to take a moment to express gratitude to our community and to encourage everybody to vote on March 19th, as Ashley shared with us. So first, my first gratitude is I want to thank the board and administration for taking the time to start with a blank piece of paper to define the problem statement of the capacity issue that the district needs to solve. We've got 4,788 K through 12 students as of January 9th that we're trying to fit into space that can serve 4,140. So it's no wonder that 5 of the 6 buildings are over capacity today. Now, second, I want to thank the more than 45 parents, teachers, staff, business leaders, local political leaders, and community members who took multiple hours of their time to serve on the community advisory team. I want to thank everyone who took part in one of the 8 focus groups. I want to thank all of those folks for their creativity in thinking up tons of options to address the capacity issues. I want to thank everyone who attended or watched the public forums that were held, and everyone who generated the over 1,900 survey responses. And I know some of the options that we all came up with were kind of crazy, so I want to thank all the folks who took the time to seriously consider those crazy options. Next, I want to thank the board and administration for working to find a way to reduce the burden of the bond issue on taxpayers by using that wraparound financing option that we just heard about. It limits the impact of a taxpayer, and that's a big deal. I know the concept of wraparound financing can get confusing, as we heard. So beyond tonight, I'd encourage folks to rewatch the board meeting from December 4th to hear from the experts. I'm going to repeat and update a couple things I said in the fall. My family is planting trees under whose shade we may never sit. My youngest will graduate before we see a facilities master plan be fully realized. But the community's children that are coming after her will benefit from an improved learning environment. And finally, I'll requote the Cincinnati Enquirer article from 1967 that talked about moving from the old Kings Mills High School to the new Kings High School. Progress is very important in this day and age. There is no denying it. If one tries to live with exactly what he has, he will be left behind while the rest of the world is moving forward. So thank you for your time and for continuing to move the district forward.
Next on the agenda for this evening are the consent agenda items for approval from the treasurer. Looks like we have organizational meeting minutes from January, work session, and regular meeting minutes from January, as well as a special meeting, financial items, and the public records log. Mr. Morrow, did you have anything to
I don't have anything to add, but I'll entertain any questions, of course.
Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Need to
Oh,
make a
excuse
motion.
me. I'm sorry. May I have a motion to approve items 1 through 6?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
I need coffee. Mr. Morrow, please call the roll.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the consent agenda items for the treasurer, we have the resolution agreement. Have any questions regarding that for Mr. Morrow? Right. May I have a motion to approve the resolution agreement? I will make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the consent agenda, the items for the superintendent. There's field trips for the firecrackers, the high school band, high school softball and baseball teams. Any questions regarding? Everyone knows my position. As we stand with open invitations.
Especially the two Florida ones that were added since last. meeting.
Absolutely. With that, may I have a motion to approve the field trips?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the consent agenda for the superintendent, we have the architect RFQ. Were there any questions, further questions for Mr. Sears? Mr. Sears, do you have anything to add regarding?
The only thing I would add is this is a proactive measure that pending the outcome of March 19th, the process will begin, but it was not an expense of the district, and it's just an effort to be proactive that if the bond issue is successful, that we're going to be off and running.
May I have a motion to approve of this item?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. And lastly, for the superintendent, under the consent agenda, is the construction manager at risk RFQ. Mr. Sears, I'm assuming same steps.
Same steps. I think we outlined the specifics of this last week at the board work session. Same steps. This puts us, the process is a little different for this one. It takes a little longer, so it's good to get ahead of this, pending that outcome. But yeah, same as if folks were interested. I know the board asked a lot of questions last week and engaged into understanding more about this process.
Further questions on that? All right, may I have a motion to approve the construction manager at risk RFQ?
I'll make the motion.
I will second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Right, next on our consent agenda are the items for the assistant superintendent regarding HR and business. We have personnel items, King's Kids Summer Camp Parent Handbook. Was there anything to add there, Mr. Spinner, or any questions for Mr. Spinner? All right, may I have a motion to approve these two items?
I'll make that motion.
I can second the motion, or I will second the motion. Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
And the last item under the assistant superintendent regarding HR and business is the land sale that we discussed last week. Were there any questions for Mr. Lucky regarding this? Mr. Lucky, did you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Thank you, sir. All right, with that, may I have a motion to approve item number 4 regarding the land sale? I can make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Right. Consent agenda. Have no items for the assistant superintendent regarding educational programs. I would ask, how did PD day go? Went well? It's great. I gotcha. All right. Next on the consent agenda, the items presented by the board. Did we have anything this evening? All right. Next is the legislative update, Mr. Score.
Thank you. Just a couple things to point out here. So, some governor activity, Governor DeWine signed House Bill 101, since we met last. And that makes several education related budget corrections, which is why this is included in here. And then also he announced the school bus safety working group's recommendations to the public. As we remember the tragic accident that happened late last year. So there's 17 recommendations that he's making that could impact the work of the Department of Public Safety, the Department of Education and Workforce, and the state legislator. And these are all spelled out in the document that's attached to the meeting here. And then one item I did want to also point out is the Senate followed the suit of the House from last month when they voted to override Governor DeWine's veto of House Bill 68. So you can read about that in there. And then just some other activity. There's lot going on with all the different committees and some new bills that were introduced since we've met last. So if there's any questions anyone has on these now or throughout the month, just let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Scurll. Any questions? All right. Next on the agenda is the Student Achievement Liaison update. Mrs. Phillips.
Okay. This is taking a little different twist that we always talk about how great our district is, especially when we look at student achievement. But we owe an awful lot to all of our teachers, and part of that is the professional development that teachers were provided throughout the year. And this last one, there were 4 different main topics of different activities for teachers to do to learn new skills, to continue moving forward with skills they already have. And a big one, if you think of all of the Power 5 things, you'll see that thread also with the development of those also. So we had personalized learning, and you can see the topics there. And I would say one of the ones, choice board and student voice and choice. So you can just relate back to the Power of 5 with creative thinking. What interests do students have? What are their strengths and weaknesses, and all of those things that, you know, enter into personalized learning. Another one for teachers, artificial learning focus. And I went to one of the sessions and it was very eye-opening. I hadn't thought that you could use AI to develop a worksheet or to develop a quiz. And that by doing that, it could save teachers 13 hours in a week's time just by using what's already out there and doing it in a different way, making lesson plans. A lot of different things from the different sessions were thrown out that, yes, with AI, you have to look at what you ask for and kind of refine that. Some things you'll want to use and some things not, but definitely a time saver. And then just looking at strategies and the asterisks, we have some teachers that are working with students that are identified gifted. And so they have to have hours in order to be able to have those students in the classroom. And so that was just with a little asterisk at the beginning. And then the topic of culture. And the other one that I found very interesting was the instructional strategy gallery and tech time, which were two that were just kind of drop in. So with the instructional strategy, I think if you go to the next slide, please. Oh, nope, there's the AI presentation that I was in. Here's the instructional strategy gallery. So in the gym, you could go in and reflect on something that you had learned. What's the challenge with the implementation? And then what type of help or support do you need? And that could be one of the instructional people coming in and helping. It could be, you know, just a vast amount of different things that you could say, gee, I need this resource, or I need help or support in something, and being able to do that. So that was one, and you can see some of the teachers sitting there and talking and reflecting on what they were learning. And then the gifted, this is just one example where the presenter went through a lot of different resources and how the teacher could use those in the classroom. And we got to see a student interview and how they felt just being gifted, and what challenges they had, or what things have they accomplished that they're really feeling proud of. And then the tech time just shows that well, you can see a couple of different people there helping with different things. It could be how to use an app. It could be, I can't get the app downloaded, or any technical issue. So lots of support there. And that's just a picture of some of the different things. The one top left, that's one of our teachers for English language learners. And you can see she had a packed class with differentiating instruction and what things teachers could do to help the students along. And thanks to Matt Freeman for all of the planning and preparation that goes into PD Day.
Oh, gosh.
And will he fill in all of the gaps? Because I was just in awe as I went from presenter to presenter, just getting little snapshots of what was going on. So what really was going on?
It really was a great day. Thank you, Mrs. Phillips. Let's get that picture up there real quick. But Dawn, if you wouldn't mind just kind of popping up that slide that I sent to you. I hope you got that. Did you get that? So yeah, I mean, I appreciate, Mr. Bell, from you kind of remembering me kind of yabbering on last week at the work session about how excited we were about this opportunity. As I kind of shared before, you know, we did take a little different format and had some different ways to present information to our teachers. But by and large, our instructional coaching team really, I want to highlight all of the work that they did to help plan. So Andrea, Chris, Aaron, and Tracy really did so much work to reach out to the teachers to organize the day. And I wanted to take a minute to and kind of have this table available to show all of the teachers that participated and shared. So as you can see, we've got representation from all of our buildings and just a whole wide variety of disciplines that were shared, and people presenting on how they're using artificial intelligence, not with students necessarily right now, but as efficiencies, as Mrs. Phillips is kind of pointing out, and how to help with generating ideas, how to prompt engineer, you know, of how to kind of get what you're looking for out of the different AI tools that are available. So that was a big highlight. Of course, personalized learning, you've heard us talk about. with regard to our district goals. So some of the pictures there at the last session, Sky Bogard was there and John Cruzy were both there. And they're both teachers participating in our launch teams, which are focused on personalized learning this year, both of them at the elementary level. But just a shout out to all of these people because they tried things. These teachers tried new strategies. They aren't professing to be experts, but they kind of stepped out of some of them, their comfort zone. Some of them are very comfortable talking in front of anybody. But a lot of our folks, stepped out of their comfort zones to talk to their peers about great things that they're trying in their classroom. And that's exactly the culture of learning that we're working to promote in the district with our staff, and just appreciate the opportunity we had to have a great day on Friday. So thanks to everyone who participated. Appreciate you, Mrs. Felix, coming and participating with us and showing, you're a lifelong learner too, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And a special thank you to Mr. Sears, because when you look at where the district is now, all of the teachers are moving up the same path. It's not, oh, I want to go do this. I want to go do this. It's like, here's our focus. Let's move together and get there together. So thank you.
So today, one final thing, the coaches and I had an all-day meeting, and we spent the first part of our morning reviewing the staff feedback, which was very positive, and kind of using that and thinking about what do we want to do for our next PD, which is not until August, but we are planning already kind of what worked well, what do we want to repeat, and what have we learned from this past session to kind of continue to make valuable professional learning experiences for our staff. Because if our teachers are learning, then we believe that our students are going to be learning as well. So it's a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on the agenda, so our last item will be executive session. We'll be entering into executive session for the following purpose: to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. I would also remind everyone that this is the last item on our agenda this evening. So upon conclusion of the executive session, we'll be adjourning the meeting for this evening. So with that, may I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's nice to have people here.
It is nice to have people.